Hello folks, it's Charlie in Westeros here, and I'm coming to you all in order to give you my personal thoughts on the not-so-recent supposed plot leaks for Season 6 of Game of Thrones, as well as to discuss a few spoilers and update my past predictions for the show. I could make this a ridiculously long video and rehash all the predictions I've made in the past, but I figure it's just best to let you check out those videos first, if you so choose, and then check into this one to see where I've changed my mind on certain aspects of Season 6. And last but not least, I've included a few minor crackpot theories for the season in my predictions, and if my personal opinion somehow offends you, then don't hesitate to click away. So at first I was going to give you a breakdown of the leaked plot summary bit by bit and give a play-by-play of all the information contained within, but I know many of you haven't read it or don't want to read it, so I will discuss anything related to the specific content of the plot leak in the predictions part of this video. However, I will say this much about the so-called script that has been leaked, and I will try to keep it short. Let's just go with the assumption that the script was authentic from the get-go, and see what that means for the upcoming season. Well, the first issue is that it was leaked in early September, and the show only recently wrapped up filming, if it isn't still filming, and that's a good 5-month gap in the timeline. While scripts are written well ahead of time of the show, the main issue with wholeheartedly trusting the leak is that scripts do change quite a bit throughout the filming process. Even on the day a certain scene is being shot itself, the script can undergo changes. Anyone who has worked in the film or television industry will know that scripts never stay the exact same from the very beginning of filming to the end. So this usually involves minor detail changes, but it can absolutely include very significant and crucial information points as well. Assuming this leak was some original version of a planned Season 6 plot, and knowing the amount of attention it has garnered online, I feel pretty confident in saying that Benioff and Weiss definitely would have changed up the plot, somewhat anyway, at least knowing that it contained the information that was so critical to the show. And if that isn't even a motivator, well, again, plots and script changes are absolutely bound to occur throughout the filming process. Now, of course, that's assuming this leak is even legitimate, because every year there is always a supposed plot leak that occurs around the fall, and every time they are basically discredited once the show starts. Also, keep in mind that only a very few amount of people have actual access to the entire script for the show or for each season. In fact, most actors who are cast or even crew members who are involved in the series aren't even able to see the script in its entirety either. Anyway, I really could go on and on and on about the script leak, but I don't think anyone is really interested in hearing me ramble on about it, so let's just get into my predictions for Season 6. So, earlier this summer I uploaded 3 separate predictions videos for the next season of Game of Thrones. Since then, YouTube has been flooded with so many new and updated prediction videos from other YouTubers, so I'm not going to repeat every little thing I said in those videos, but rather I'm going to either emphasize those older predictions I've had some change of thought on, as well as make some new predictions in light of the recent Season 6 teaser, the 3-4 clip HBO release last week, and some photo leaks on the set as well. Of course, I strongly encourage you to check out my older prediction videos first, and the links are in the info box below, but again, that is totally your call. First off, I can only emphasize that very little new information has been given to us in spite of these recent teasers. Evidently, Cersei is reunited with Tommen in one brief clip where she goes in to hug him, and not to dig too deep into this one, but I do think it's a clear sign that she is really going to up her grip over her son in order to protect him, especially once she finds out that her daughter is dead. The intense look in her eyes also reaffirms my belief that she will absolutely be going to extreme lengths to protect him, even if it means she will burn down King's Landing as well. Of course, more info on that in my original predictions video. The quick glimpse of a tired-looking Dany in the same costume that she wore when the Dothraki found her last season, coupled with a completely separate but verifiable script leak from a minor Dothraki character, however, has made me reassess her situation just a little bit. Originally, I said that I did not think the Dothraki meant her any harm, and I don't think they will cause her any serious or life-threatening injuries, but I have to admit that it is now clear that the Dothraki who encounter her at the end of the last season are at least going to have a few unkind words to say about her. That said, the script page leak does indicate these Dothraki see her as a Khaleesi, and as a result, it is still my belief that they are fulfilling their mission to bring her back to Vaes Dothrak so that she can remain there with the other widows of past calls. Moreover, you can see in another leaked photo how Daenerys is sitting at a Dothraki camp, slightly away from the others, but still looks to be quite alright. Note that this photo is very similar to the snippet preview of her from a recent HBO commercial. Now, this is where my thoughts are slightly still in line with the fake plot leak that was recently released that I mentioned in the beginning, and I do think Drogo will appear at Vaes Dothrak, and knowing no blood can be spilled there, the Dothraki will acknowledge her nevertheless as a call in her own right. Of course, the rest of my thoughts for Dany's arc remain the same as they did in my original predictions video, and I think this photo leak speaks to my original thoughts pretty strongly as well. Just saying. So here comes one crackpot prediction from a photo leak I bet none of you have thought of, and of course it involves Shae. Now, Sibel Kekili's photo was taken on set in which she is seen with Varys in rather humble garbs. To me this means one of two things. Well, three imaginable options, really. The first is evidently a flashback scene from when they're in King's Landing. The second possibility is Sibel is playing a character related to Shae, like maybe a sister or perhaps a cousin, and it is plausible to consider that option as though she doesn't seem as glammed up as the old Shae we knew ever was. Now, here is the third option. Unless Shae survived, which I doubt, there is one way she could have returned to the universe of Game of Thrones, and that is through some form of resurrection. For those of you who read the books, and this is a pretty big book spoiler here for Melisandre's backstory show viewers, but as we found out in the Dance of the Dragons, Melisandre seems to have originally been a slave named Melanie, sold at a Red Temple when she was quite young. Another very strong hint we have been given in the past is that Melisandre is in fact already dead. On top of that, Mel is often seen using her sexual prowess in many instances to get what she wants, which leads me to believe that she may have actually been a prostitute when she was a slave. Also, the other Red Priestess we saw last season was quite attractive as well, and it wouldn't entirely surprise me if she was also a slave prostitute as well. So, my crackpot theory is this. Could Shae have been brought back from the dead to now serve as a priestess for the Red God? I realize it's a bit of a stretch, and I really only have two other characters to base that off of, obviously, as well, but at the very least, it seems possible that if she were revived, it would be by the Red Priests. Unless, of course, Varys knew Tyrion would find her in Tywin's bedchamber and made her somehow fake her own death, but that does seem a little over the top in my eyes. Anyway, that's one of my bold predictions. Shae comes back from the dead as a Red Priestess. Yes, feel free to call me crazy on that count. Since we're on the topic of Red Priestesses, this is a perfect point to talk about Jon Snow and Melisandre, another pair I had originally made some strong predictions for, or bold predictions for rather, but have since changed my mind a little bit on them. Well, quite a bit on them. So, I am going to stick with my original thought of Jon Snow being killed and coming back from the dead this coming season, but evidently I was completely wrong on quite a few details given some of the leaked photos from the set. So let me rectify them right here and now. First, I now think Jon Snow will be revived fairly early in the season, and it will absolutely come about by the hands of Melisandre. The on-set photos of Mel and Jon appearing together has made that quite a strong option. Now, ideally, I think Jon would be revived in the books via the sacrifice of poor little Shireen from last season, but the so-called plot leak and the leaked photos from filming has put me on a completely different train of thought entirely. Originally, I thought he'd be revived towards the end of Season 6. Now, I think it's obvious he'll be brought back closer to the beginning instead. Oddly enough, and this is info that comes from the so-called leak plot, I know I gotta keep quoting that stupid thing, I could easily see Melisandre sacrificing Ollie in this case in order to revive Jon Snow early on. Granted, I do think that it is a bit of an odd way to go about it, but knowing Benioff and Weiss, my hunch is they might create a contrast as to how sacrificing Shireen to save Stannis, in spite of their respective royal background, was irrelevant because Jon Snow will be revived as the true so-called prince that was promised, and a sacrifice from even a child of humble birth like Ollie would be more than enough to bring him back. And by the way, once he does come back, I do think his death and then being revived will, in a sense, liberate Jon Snow from his vows to the Night's Watch, and he will take up arms to defend Sansa and Rickon's claim to the north. Of course, that's even assuming there is still a Night's Watch in existence in the first place after he is revived. In the leaked pictures of Jon Snow on set, you can see that he is in fact wearing Stark armor, so I think that's a very good indication as to where his loyalties lie, or at least will lie. Jon Snow's revival aside, I do think that the rest of the northern arc will stay relatively on track with my original predictions for that area. Well folks, those were my theories and thoughts for the upcoming season of Game of Thrones. Of course, I could have discussed a heck of a lot more, and if this video garners enough interest, I will be more than happy to cover some updates on some of the other characters and story predictions for Season 6. But first, let me know what you think. Do you agree with my thoughts? Do you think I'm completely out to lunch? But as always, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you did enjoy this video. And of course, thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time.